So, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Today we are the honor to host our presenter, Luisa Nims, with a great topic. Welcome, Luisa.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Gustavo.
No, it's a pleasure. And the presentation will be recorded and later available via Impact Beaverton YouTube channel as a resource for small businesses. And we will also make to Spanish audio available through our talented interpreter, Jessica Dower, joining us today. Gracias, Jessica. After the presentation, we will open up for the question and answer on recorded, so everyone feels comfortable to make any questions. As the presentation rolls, please put your questions in the chat box and we will do our the best to address everyone to them. Okay? Thank you for everyone. Luisa, you can start.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Luisa Nims. I own Acid Branding. It is a brand strategy company. And I put together a presentation that kind of covers what a brand strategy really is, because a lot of people don't know what it is, and also how that affects your design efforts, your intellectual property, and how to protect it. So let's go over the overview. So the goals of this presentation is to understand the difference between a brand, a logo, and a trademark, and how to file a trademark, and why all of this is important for your business. So we'll start out with what is a brand, what is brand strategy, why is it important to my business, and then questions to ask a brand strategist when interviewing, because I have found over time that a lot of people who are brand identity designers are saying that they're brand strategists, and they're really not. And the brand identity designer is the
Oh. Oh, we have problem with Lisa.
more important as chamber members are going online. So I was talking to Kathy Bazan about this, and she said that a lot of small businesses, including mine, I need to get on top of it too, need to not only update their logos, but to protect their intellectual property through trademark filing. And so we'll talk about that and why that's so important. So let's first start with the very beginning. A lot of people confuse the difference between a brand, a logo, and not so much a trademark, but basically what the difference between a brand and a logo is. So they think a brand is a logo and no more. Some people get that maybe it's a signature color, and some people even know that it's about having a voice. But a brand is much more than just a symbol. It's the why of what and how we do our jobs. And consumers demand to have a connection to their brands. There's a lot of talk about how it's even more imperative today, but I really think from the very beginning, branding was important to people when they first came out as a way to connect with a consistent, reliable food source. That's really, why they started branding food. And then it created an emotional connection in their own way as they developed a relationship and an affinity to that brand. So that is the emotional connection that is created. And now that we have kind of a lot of small businesses that are flooding the market and flooding the kind of the digital commerce area, it has become a sea of logos and of images with very little meaning. So people do not buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Many companies make the mistake of thinking it is about the product or service. Yes, there's a part of it absolutely about that, but there is also a big part of it about relationship building. So, and that means that you have to be able to define your drive, your purpose for being. And this will guide everything you do, from logo and web design to how you communicate your values, who you target, and all your marketing efforts. So where did it all start? Basically, where do brands begin? Well, it started with a bunch of cows. Cattle ranchers needed to quickly see whose cows belonged to which ranch when they got out, were rustled, or sold at market. And believe it or not, cows are still getting rustled. Originally, a hot iron was applied to their hip. Over time, a quicker technique using a formulated acid replaced the hot iron. Brands were designed to be simple and quickly recognizable, so local authorities and owners in a split second can determine which cow belongs to what rancher. And that is how branding started and acid branding was born. So, branding is the reason why you do something. Marketing is how you communicate and respond to what is going on in the market. And that will be more of a discussion for later, but I just wanted to touch on that because branding and marketing kind of get smushed together in the small business world. And so it creates a lot of confusion. So a brand must make sense in a split second to make any kind of impact, and especially so when you're online. So it's no longer going to the local neighborhood boutique or store or ophthalmologist and saying, I know this guy, he's my neighbor, and I really want to support him, and I like him, and his kids go to school with my kids. When you go online, you create this whole nother level of you don't create, you actually move into this whole other level of basically people, populations, images that really don't have any meaning unless they are really well created. So that's why brands not only must have a purpose and solve a problem, but they must be able to have impact in a split second. So Nike is a great example of how they created a emotional connection with consumers. It was the first real athletic brand to have created a lifestyle around its products and defines the why of why they do what they do. So what is really Nike selling? Is it a shoe? Is it a tribe of like-minded people? They're really selling personal aspirations to succeed, be adventurous, and to push your own limits. And that is a very American strategy. If any of you are working in an international market, you will know that brands land or messages land differently in the US or in regions of the US than they do, say, in Mexico, Canada, Asia, wherever else that you are doing business. And I know that there are some trade members that are working more internationally as well. So this is going to be even more important, is to know the cultural piece. So for Nike, really the problem is being a winner or a loser. Now, this sometimes makes people feel uncomfortable because it seems kind of harsh, but it kind of is harsh. And it really is about being in, whether it's kind of the jock kind of environment where you are excelling at everything that you do and that you are pushing all of your time and energy into succeeding at everything you do, or being more laid back. And Nike really has done a very good job for a long time of hitting on that success kind of aspiration that we have in our culture. And that's also where their brand strategy starts with. So branding adds spirit and soul to what otherwise be a robotic, automated, generic price value proposition. So again, if you go back to Nike and their shoes, it's not just about a shoe that's at a great price, because we know that they aren't always at a great price, and they have especially shoes that are selling for hundreds and I think over $1,000 at times on the secondary market. So there's like a whole sneaker culture that is going on, and Nike helped spur that. So a brand with relevance is perceived as a person with a soul in the human mind, with a reputation and values, and has a purpose. This demands a North Star to guide and build consistency and cohesive messaging. So a good brand strategist builds out the person. This means we must ask, how do we make people feel? So if you want to go back to Nike, how does it make people feel? Well, it makes them feel like they're winners when they put on their shoes and when they wear, I mean, you can, if you have kids and you go into the junior highs and high schools, you will see Nike socks, Nike shoes, Nike leggings, Nike t-shirts, everything on the kids because they've adopted this idea of that if they wear Nike clothing, they are their part of the group that are going to succeed. And there's a huge pressure for us to succeed in our culture, in a lot of cultures, absolutely. But in our culture particularly, it's about individualism and succeeding. So, and Nike knows that, and they know how it makes you feel. So when you see people with wearing a lot of Nike gear, a lot of kids, they really are saying, I want to be successful. So what is a person's gut feeling about the brand? Like I said, with Nike, it's about success. With other brands, it's about different things. And a lot of businesses, especially smaller businesses that don't have big marketing departments, don't take the time to think about this. So do people feel included, empowered, or savvy? A dynamic brand strategy will identify the emotions that resonate best with your brand and help you capture those feelings in your marketing and design efforts. So you have to ask, how are you different? What is that special something that your brand has that no others possess? What's the magic you have to offer? And it must be attractive to its customers. So is it charming, old-fashioned, personable, professional? Are they, intense and strivers? I mean, where does your brand fit? And this is where brand identity and imagery is formed. A brand strategy can be used by designers to create a cohesive visual image of your company. So the brand strategist is actually the one that helps you really define what your brand is, and then how it fits with the marketplace and how does it resonate. And then it gets handed off to the brand identity designers. And a lot of time it doesn't happen that way. So what's the risk in just hiring a logo designer? Designers make clothes for your person. If you spend all your time creating the clothes and very little on a strategy, then you have literally no body to put them in. Because remember, your brand is turned into a person by other people. It takes on a life of its own. So then if you don't have that body, right, there's no way to connect. It's just clothes floating around because they can't see you. And your brand is just a scary floaty thing with no meaning. And I see this happening a lot. So Nike's messaging is amazingly effective. You can't stop us. Find your greatness. Just do it. And they want you to believe that if you buy it, you will achieve your full potential. And this is where an emotional connection either occurs or doesn't, and is a foundational element in a North Star guiding light type brand strategy. And Nike has hit this straight on. There's a lot of other brands that have too. Apple's another great example of that. They really look at the customer and what the customer is looking for, and a lot less on what they're doing. Yes, they design beautiful products, and that drives their business, but it's actually the customer driving the business, and Apple knows that. It's the customer that wants the beautiful, sleek designed devices. They want a system that's closed, that is safe, that will help them be able to achieve what they want without having to worry about getting hacked into it. That's why they're so tight on privacy. They are a lot of Apple's customers are creative, or they want to be creative, or they want to aspire to be creative. And so Apple really creates these beautiful products that allow or that support a creative kind of lifestyle. And that creates an emotional connection with their people, because Apple is solving a problem, right? But it's doing it in a way of understanding the consumer. So a brand strategist comes in to help define your why, building a roadmap for your company that connects consumers to product, attracting the customers you desire. I've run into many people who have had companies where they have a great product and they are well trained and they know what they're doing, but they're just not getting the customers that they want because their messaging is off. So that's something else that a good brand strategist will do for you, is get your messaging and align with the product. So what are the numbers? So what do you gain from investing in a brand strategy? It's really a capital investment. 3 times faster profit growth, 31% greater revenue growth, and if you are a company with shareholders, 31% shareholder growth. So I found these numbers online. I didn't realize how effective it was, but I mean, I knew it was effective, but I didn't realize like how much more people could make doing it, you having a brand strategy. So I was never ever given the numbers in my past jobs. So take the time to develop your brand. Your life and decision making will be easier and you'll make more money faster. So how is a good brand strategy created? We know what it is now. Let's talk about how it works. Well, it's not easy. It takes time and a lot of thought for the branding strategists. It's also an intuitive process. For myself, I was trained in Europe and I worked for a company for close to 5 years, intensely working in different countries, helping global brands with their brand erosion, with product research, product development, packaging research, advertising, that kind of thing. And then I took that and went to graduate school, and a bunch of questions and answers came up in graduate school that I didn't even know that I had. And since then, I have been using it for, past that time, the last 15 years in everything that I do. So a brand strategist will ask questions, conduct workshops, and do a ton of research. So from the answers and research, a strategy begins to form. A long-term roadmap is created that builds out a well-marked path to carry the brand throughout life. And it always comes first, acting as a guide to where you're going. A good brand strategy will guide all your decisions. It is big picture, long-term, and rarely changes. And it gives the consistency, clarity, and reliability that people crave. And we're the reason for brands to start in the first place, past the cattle ranching. So, and that turns a product and idea into a person with a purpose, a voice, style, and soul. And that's something else that people forget or they aren't even aware of, that your brand is a person, and that person has a style, it has opinions, it has habits, it has preferences, and it has a voice, and you have to create that voice. So questions to ask a strategist. This is really important to know before you buy. And I put this in because I have run across, like I said, a lot of people who have spent a lot of money on web design and logo design, and they aren't getting where they want to be. It doesn't really say what they are as a company, as a product, as a person. And it's because they didn't put the strategy in place at the beginning and then hand it off to the designers. So brand strategists focus solely on how you are uniquely different. They use consumer insights to inform. They ask a lot of questions. They conduct research into your market, and they're able to see quickly what is out of alignment. So again, it's intuitive. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research before I developed the intuitive knowledge that I have today. So I would say that it took me 18 to 24 months of intensive research at my old company to develop this intuitive knowledge. And then it kept building on itself in the third and the fourth and the fifth year. And now it's been 20 years. So they have years of experience and can answer, what kind of projects have you done in the past? How do you keep track of market trends? Example of how you use consumer insights and strategy, and how do you incorporate data to inform the strategy? Those are all really important pieces. And as you can see, none of them yet have anything to do with design. So now you have a brand. What next? Well, it's time to have a logo and trademark designed, and also a brand identity if you can do it. So in a brand identity is basically the whole color palette, the font, the typography, the imagery, the iconography that you want to use. So it's a whole lot of pieces, and it's its own specialty, and it's something that I can't do. So, and nor should I be doing. So the brand is all thought. It's what allows the company to differentiate itself from its competitors. Logo and trademarks are physical design, and if done well, it is a piece of art. So we know that e-commerce is here to stay. Global e-commerce reached 26.7 billion in 2020 due to COVID. And it was already on the uprise. It just helped spur it to new levels. It's more important than ever to have a brand that tells people your why, and that requires a brand strategy. So again, you're no longer the corner market. I mean, some people are, but for the most part, people are going to the digital marketplace, and they have to survive. And that's why having a really strong brand identity, a logo, and brand strategy to make sure that you stand out and differentiate so you can not only survive but thrive in the digital marketplace is very important. And so that means your trademarks and logos need to be updated to create an impact in the digital economy and established to protect your intellectual property. And you'll come to see in just a minute why. Intellectual property is being stolen at a rapid pace. 21% of all CEOs are reporting year over year that they have had intellectual property stolen. So brands, logos, and trademarks are all part of intellectual property. Businesses do not realize how much they're exposed. People are taking inspiration in many forms by going online and looking at what people are doing in other states, other countries, and then mimicking it in their own state. So they're getting lazy and they'll go other places and basically take their concepts and their ideas and make it their own. Intellectual property damages cost US businesses 225 to 600 billion per year. The costs are real. There's 12,000 lawsuits filed each year in US courts. 76% of the cases are settled out of court. The average mediation cost is $100,000, and it's not including the cost if it goes to trial. So you try mediation first, and then you go to court, and the last 24% go to court. So it's a lot more than $100,000. So what's the difference between a logo and a trademark? A logo is a design used by a company that may fall under trademark protection laws. The trademark itself actually protects a phrase, name, logo, or design that identifies a company. LLCs do not protect you. Trademarks do. So just because you have an LLC behind your name doesn't mean anything. So you have to protect your intellectual property or you run the risk of losing your image down the road. A common problem again with logo design is outdated techniques, visuals, and effects, and with a lot of unintended messaging. So if you go online and you look for kind of logo fails, you're going to see a lot of logos that not only are outdated in their graphics, in their color palettes, but also they have unintentional messaging, like with the state of Vermont pure maple syrup. And I could have done a whole list of those. They were kind of hilarious, but they also were a little bit rude. And the yellow house down here is actually a Chinese restaurant. And logos that say nothing about what the brand is or about. So OGC, I mean, who thinks that looks like a luxury brand? So it's actually a governmental organization. And A-Style is actually a women's clothing line, which to me looks like it's either a playground equipment company, or it could be toys, or it could be a construction worker. So, and then Gap, who is a big company, who is multinational, who has a huge marketing department, even had a fail. That Gap rebrand that you're looking at right down there lasted 1 week because it made no sense. And so they had to quickly go back to the original Gap design for their logo. So logos are the brand's design. It's the U in Unilever, it's the Target's bullseye, and it's the Dove's font and symbol. So basically, if you see a U like that, whether it is the graphic design in it that is that shape, or if it's something else, you will still always know it's Unilever. And same with the Target's bullseye. If you see Spud the little dog in the Target, or an arrow in the Target, you're still going to know that it's Target. Or sometimes I've seen the colors change up a little bit. You will always know that it's Target. And the same thing with Dove. They have very distinct font, and they always use that Dove symbol. So, and they always embody their brand strategies. I could talk a lot longer about Unilever and Target and Dove strategies, but they really fit with, it's the you, right? The Unilever is all about you. The Target's bullseye means that it is for everybody. And the Dove is about feminine empowerment. So, and it embodies their brand strategies. So this is a great example of what a logo looks like and what a trademark looks like, because they're essentially the same design element, but they're not at the same time. So with Apple, their trademark is that apple grayscaled with a bite out of it. but they can do a lot with that, and that makes it a logo. So whether they are celebrating Gay Pride Month, or they are changing the colors out for specific advertisement campaigns, or in different advertising campaigns in different magazines, doesn't matter. You will always know when you see that Apple logo, and that will never change for them. They might change the color of it, they might change the position of it, but they'll never change the shape of it. So trademarks protect the design and can include a design element. So how does filing work? State trademark works a little bit differently than federal. So if you are only working in one state, you might be okay with having just one state and one trademark. But if you are selling in multiple states and doing business in multiple states, you might want to consider going for a federal trademark, and we'll look at that next. So the costs vary from state to state. Oregon, it's $50. Arizona, it's $15. So it can be different in each state. And with Oregon, you want to file with the Oregon Secretary of State. So the state trademark normally takes 2 to 4 weeks upon filing in your home state, and will cover your business until federal protections kick in if you decide that you're going to also file at the same time a federal trademark. In Oregon, it must be renewed every 5 years, and in other states it's different. So that's another reason that if you have multiple states that you're doing business in, to also file for a federal trademark. So federal trademarks run between $250 and $350 depending upon the type. You file it at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and it can take up to 8 months to process. The great thing about the federal trademark is, especially if you're doing business overseas, it's recognized in 156 countries, except for China. You're going to expect that if you work and do business in China, that it very much will, if it is a successful product and brand, that it will probably get emulated. So can you do it yourself? Absolutely. The main piece that you have to do is demonstrate to the U.S. Patent and Trade Office that you're using that logo to identify your products and services from a competing entity's products. So basically, it's a logo, and your products and services connected to that logo. So for copyrights, and this is more for creative property. So it's like history tests or websites, social media, software code, that kind of thing. Any kind of academic writing, they would be filed with the U.S. Copyright Office, and they're just as important to do. And something that I learned working with Kathy is that I also need to put copyrights on my website and all my social media. And that's what I'm in the process of doing now. And you have to create what's called a book, and that has like different samples of your copyrighted material. And then you take that book, which I think you can just do in a slide deck, and present it to the US Copyright Office for copywriting. And if you copyright everything, then you are protected when somebody comes and starts using your material. And it happens all the time on social media. Content creators are constantly complaining about this. So protect your assets so you can relax and enjoy new opportunities. And taking these steps also opens up doors. It connects you with others, so you can go out and have fun and find your tribe. So asset branding, we create North Star brands, and we burn brands into minds everywhere. Okay, I am done. I'm going to stop sharing.